And look who I have with me, Andrew, also known as the Yarn Whisperer, whom I met, like I meet so many of the wonderful men I talk to, on Instagram because he posts some amazing photos. He is a yarn dyer. I believe you knit as well. Do you crochet?
I crochet. I was originally a crocheter, so I've
Mm-hmm.
crocheted for longer than I've knitted. I've only knitted for a year and a half, 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, about a year and a half, and I've crocheted since 2014. I think that's right. So yeah, crochet mostly. I can show you some later if you like.
I'd
Um,
love that.
and yeah, knitting recently, and then I got fully addicted and became a dyer, and then became a knitter as well. So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
all the yarn things, yeah.
Yeah. Actually, we should talk offline sometime about some sort of a partnership with your yarn and my patterns.
Oh, cool. Yeah, let's do it. I like a collab. Why not?
Uh, because I
Let's talk.
indeed, indeed, because I love really nice yarn. My tastes have become a lot more posh. My
Hmm.
budget hasn't.
I understand that. Yeah,
Um,
that's partly why I became a dyer, because I can get yarn wholesale now and dye it to how I want.
very nice, and
So yeah, I'm enabling myself quite, quite, quite aside from anybody else. That everybody else buying yarn is just like a nice little bonus, I suppose.
Mhm.
What? Yeah.
So yeah, we should talk about that because some of the yarns that I've seen in your photos, I think would look great with some of my patterns. I specialize in shawls.
Oh, okay. Cool.
And so a lot of self-striping and variegated yarns look really good with my patterns.
Hmm.
But also solid colors always look good. Um, so
I do like variegated. I think self striping is. I don't really have the facilities at the minute for self striping. I
mhm.
work out of my home, so and it's fairly limited in space. So self striping is a little bit of a bigger thing because you need a walking mill and stuff to make those skeins much longer. Um, and I don't have the space for that at the moment. Um,
Well, we'll just call the stripes very short.
there'll be short stripes, yeah, exactly. As long as, but variegated is much. That's kind of where I sort of sit most
Hmm.
of my stuff, and I do like the odd solid color. I do some solid colors, but I tend to do them as semi solids, and because I like when there's variation. And otherwise, it's not hand dyed, if you know what I mean. Hand dyed yarn to me is it has those. I don't like to call them imperfections because they're not. They have those sort of special moments where it becomes something a bit more unique than it already is.
Hmm.
That's how I like to see it. So when you use hand dyed yarn and you're using a crochet pattern, you get something that's totally yours. You're never going to have another one quite like that, and I quite
Exactly.
like that.
Exactly. I now I when I picked up the hook again, when I started crocheting again, I had learned as a child, but I picked it up again in I think it was 2016. Um, at that time, I was still learning a lot. And I didn't know much about yarns. I was all about the budget yarns because, some of them you get 1,000 yards for $10. Well, nowadays it's more 12 or $13, but still. Um, um, but I don't look down on budget yarns that are nice.
No, I agree.
There are some budget yarns I do look down on,
Right.
but I'm not going to name them right now.
Yeah. No, that's fair. I mean, I think you use the yarn that's in your budget. And some, especially if you're making amigurumi toys like this stuff.
Hmm.
This is all. I don't use. I mean, this one was cotton.
Oh, I like that. I've never seen anything like that. Wow. I don't do much amigurumi, and the last
Yeah.
things I did were sort of rude, so I don't show them to people.
Okay, fair. So I have plants and stuff as well, and that's. I mean, I use a lot of cotton for that kind of stuff. But then some blankets and things like this is a crochet blanket I did a while back, and this was all acrylic. So
is that done in mosaic crochet?
It's got elements of mosaic crochet in some bits, but it's kind of lots of different stitches. Really.
The design is really nice, and I love the colors. Oh, there's a mandala in the middle of it, isn't there? Oh my goodness gracious. I've seen a bunch of pictures of that kind of design that people will do. I haven't done it myself yet.
Okay.
Maybe I will.
I like this kind of thing because you learn lots of new stitches, really. I mean, which you soon find out are just the same stitches that we know, done in like a combination of stitches, so that you get different shapes and patterns. So it's not more difficult, really. This is by a design. This is by what's his name? The guy with the hook, whose first name escapes me. But he is an amazing crochet sensei. I think his patterns are stunning. If
it comes to you, send me the link and I'll include it in the description.
Yeah, I will. I'll add it. His name's escaped me now, but I know he's the guy with.
Oh, that happens to me all the time.
Yeah.
My own name escapes me all the
time. Yes.
That's why I have it on the bottom of the screen there.
Yeah, exactly. No, I totally get it. I saw that. I was like, oh, good feature, because I need that. Totally get you.
Yeah. So then, do you have favorite fibers to work with when you're dyeing? You mentioned you like cotton for some purposes.
Yeah, I don't do my own dyeing on cotton. I use an acid dye process, so I use protein fiber. My favorite, probably my go-to sock yarn, 4-ply yarn, is Corriedale. I use a Corriedale sock, which has a 80% Corriedale, 20% mix.
What does Corriedale mean?
Corriedale is just a really beautiful. It's just a really beautiful platinum kind of yarn. Actually,
so it's like a variety of wool.
No, it's actually Corriedale sheep are a kind of ancestor of merino. Corriedale were first farmed.
So then it is like a variety of wool.
So, yeah. And it's a really lovely platinum color. So it takes, in its natural state, it's really kind of quite creamy but white. It's really bright. So it takes color really beautifully. So this was a skein I did on Corriedale, which
is so nice.
That one's called Twinkle. So that's basically all the colors.
No wonder.
Yeah. And then this was snow dyeing with that Corriedale base. So you can see some of the natural color in there. The light's not picking up well, but it takes color really, really well. And yeah, it's beautiful. It's really beautiful. I mean, I do lots of stuff on Corriedale as 4-ply base. And then I love a Wensleydale. I have a bit of Wensleydale, which is a kind of it's another 100%, that one. It's a DK. And it's much more creamy in its natural state. So you get colors that are a bit more, they're almost a bit more vintage, but you can still dye quite vibrantly on it. And most of my dye processes tend to make bright colors. I don't tend to do subtle. I haven't learned subtle.
I always say that, I'm subtle with a capital T.
Yeah, I just prefer to have something a bit more vibrant. But I do throw black in quite a lot. So that was the first color I ever did. which is called Padron peppers.
Let me show you something.
And
It's in a
this is
box
one
at
where
my
you flip
feet
down.
right now. This is something I've already published this pattern. This is, but I'm just working through a big old hank of yarn
Okay.
that came from,
Oh, that's nice.
oh my gosh, you can't see it all the time, can you? There. Yeah. It
Yeah.
came from one of your countrymen. He is,
Okay.
let me see. What I do with the label. Anyway, Daniel from Paw Ply Yarns.
Oh, okay. Yep.
So he and I actually created that colorway together, and he only did one run of it, and I could only afford to buy a few skeins, which made me sad. But it's a very lightweight yarn,
Okay.
and until recently, I was a worsted boy.
Oh, okay.
So I've come to appreciate lighter weights a lot, and now I don't do worsted a lot anymore,
Okay.
unless it's yarn that I already have that I want to use up.
Yeah. I mean, I find 4-ply, so a light yarn, like 4-ply, really useful for shawls because with a shawl it's much bigger anyway. You wear it a bit more like a scarf, mostly. So
Mm-hmm.
you get the bulk of the yarn, and the warmth through the layers of it, but actually the 4-ply gives it a really lovely drape. So it's kind of, I mean, I use Corridale mostly for shawls.
And what weight was the Cordell again?
That's 4-ply.
What would we call that over here?
You would call that sock yarn or fingering, I suppose.
Would that be a number 1 or number? DK
Probably,
for us is number 3.
okay, I think sock weight would be number 2.
Okay, I think that's what
It's
this
not
yarn
super
is.
fine,
Yeah.
yeah. And that's, I mean, this is all Corridale.
Mm-hmm.
So this is my Slipstravaganza.
That looks like a Stephen West pattern.
It is indeed a Stephen West, well spotted. And that is in 4 of my colours. So I've just dyed a couple of sort of, I love orange, so I do quite a lot of orange. But there's a hank in there that is from a collection I did called Koi Pond, which I still dye. And it's kind of a variegated, it knits up with lots of pops of orange and black and grey. In fact, I have one somewhere. Yeah.
So,
That's Koi Pond.
oh, I like that.
So I have.
And what weight is that one?
That's a 4-ply.
Sock weight.
So that's the sock weight, and that's a Corridale, like I said. And it just has a great drape on it. So I'll take a hank like that, and then I'll build a kit round it for people. So I kind of do a dark color and then a mid grey or a orange, and pull out the colors and kind of put it together and make a kit around that. I don't as a standard dye kits for people. I tend to dye hanks of yarn that are a bit special, and then I can build a kit around it to highlight it. So you'll get pop of color and then that kind of thing. Or I'll do, like, this was another Stephen West. This was Shawlography.
Yeah, that looks very much like Stephen West.
Yeah.
I have so many knitting friends who just, worship and adore Stephen
I love that. I mean, that's how I got into knitting, really. So this was the second thing I ever knitted.
Now, is that something you start from the bottom up or the top down?
You actually start from this section here, this central panel, this panel. So we actually start.
You create a triangle and then you work around the triangle.
Yeah, that section went first on this one, and then we added the next section in and so on. With shawlography, you actually started with that little section here.
Mm-hmm.
And then the construction works out from that. So it's all a bit different. And once you know how to, it's actually really easy. Once you know how to knit and purl, then and slip stitches, which is just take that stitch and don't do anything with it, just move it to the needle, the other needle. Then you use a crochet hook to pick up stitches if you really can't pick up stitches with the needles, which is hands up me. Because I'm a natural crocheter, I just grab the crochet hook and do that bit with the crochet hook, just pull the stitches through where I want. And then once you've picked up the stitches, away you go again, kind of thing. So it took me a while to get to the place where I could hold the yarn and do 2 sticks, because that seemed really weird for me to begin with. But then I know lots of knitters who say the same thing happened to them when they learned to crochet. They couldn't work out how you could just have one. And I think it's just what you get used to, what you start with.
I always say that knitting is a mystery to me, and that's okay, because there's still a lot more to learn about crochet.
But I mean, as you can see with these kinds of things, you can carry on learning new. I mean, every time I pick up a pattern like this, I'm learning something new. And
now
that's why I like it.
There's a pattern designer I particularly like from whom I've learned a lot of new stitches. And her name, or her channel at least, website, I believe also, Bonnie Bay Crochets.
Oh, okay.
And she does a lot of things, and a lot of them have a wide variety of stitches.
Right.
When I'm creating something, I want to create a simple repeat.
Yeah.
Because I want people to understand my pattern.
Yeah, no, I get that. I mean, I think there's patterns for everybody out there, isn't there? I mean, you can, if you want something, I mean, and I tend to have different projects on the go for different. I have about 16 whips on the go at the minute. And now
wow.
Yeah, now that I can knit as well, I end up with knitting and crochet whips.
Yeah,
but they're all for different purposes.
Yeah, my friends talk about having whip mountains.
Yeah, so, I have the naughty step. So there's some that sort of sit on the naughty step, and that I'm not doing them at the minute. They're actively in the whip pile, because I will finish them eventually. But I've kind of I get bored really easily. So I kind of like, some projects are perfect for when you've got some time to actually sit and think. Some projects are great for just watching telly, and you can. I'm knitting at the moment. I'm actually knitting up my Advent kit from last year. Finally, there was all plans to knit it in September. It never happened, and I know Advent finished like 3 months ago, and I'm up to day 15. So it's happening, but but this has become my knit in front of the telly project, because the repeat's actually really easy, and it's just because it's just garter stitch. So it's basically it's going to be a shawl, but it's basically all the colors.
Oh, I saw a picture of that on your Instagram.
Yeah, so that's what I'm working on at the minute. So that's one of my whips, and that's just kind of there for the telly, really. I'm also crocheting a temperature blanket, which at the moment I'm a bit bored with, but I'm collecting all the data, and then I just sit down every 10 days and just do 10 rows, because 1 row a day is just tedious to me. So yeah, but I'm a couple months in, so I'm more or less up to date.
Well, the colors are turning out quite nicely. I myself, unless I could do it like the whole year in retrospect, I would lose interest very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of it's a challenge in the set. I've been wanting to do one forever, for the longest time, and decided this year was the year. And I've picked a really simple pattern, and it's just more about the discipline of just going on and checking the data, and then finding, because 1 row takes me maybe 2 minutes, probably 10 minutes.
Well, how
So,
large is it
sorry.
across? How large is it across?
It's only 200 and something stitches across. It's not going to be massive. So it's a nice 5 minute break for
Yeah.
one line. But I actually worked out it's actually more practical to kind of do just set aside an hour every 10 days or so and just,
Yeah.
bash through 10 rows kind of thing. So that's kind of what I'm doing with the plan to be up to date
hmm
at the start of each month. I've finished the month before. So, um,
That's that works. Yeah.
yeah,
I myself I will pick up a small project like a hat. I'm always doing hats. In the middle of a if I need a break in the middle of a larger project,
yeah,
because I'm also always doing sweaters, and sweaters take a bit of time.
yeah. I've started a sweater. It's currently on the naughty step. I put it away a while back, and
hmm
I'm in the middle of the yoke somewhere, and um, yeah. It's my first color work, and I'm kind of like, I'm happy with it, but I'm just kind of like, it might not ever fit me. It may not never get finished, but you know,
I love to wear my own sweaters, and I
do you?
especially love it when people ask me about them. But I um, I have two sweaters that are done that I just need to publish, as well as a few other patterns. And I have another sweater that is in the works, and at least one in the planning stage that I haven't started yet.
Okay, but
So,
you're a crocheter, so these are crocheted sweaters.
yes,
Excellent. We don't
yes.
see enough of them.
Look at my Instagram.
I know. I've seen them, but excellent.
Yeah.
Because that's the other thing. Like patterns for men is kind of a thing, a bit of a bugbear of mine, because there's not many out there, and they kind of get overlooked. And
And so
um,
many of them are knitting. And I
yeah,
think I used to have the
yeah,
opinion that crochet was a little too bulky or too sturdy for actual clothing. But I
okay,
think especially for menswear, it really works. And, if you use the right yarn and the right hook, it works for women as well.
yeah, I agree, and I think that's where I mean it's a sweater quantity of 4 ply is a bit of a big ask in the sense that obviously you've got more length, but it's obviously much finer and a bit more drapey. But
Mhm.
on the right kind of top, I've got a friend who knits the most amazing clothing, and he tends to just take a pattern that he likes and then goes, "Oh, I want the arms longer on that, and I want
Mhm.
sort of a panel here, and I'm not going to connect that bit, and I'm going to." And he creates these things. And I said to him not long ago, I was like, Ian, you need to like publish this stuff because it doesn't exist, and you're making it happen, and then nobody sees it, and we need more of it.
Do you create your own patterns?
I do. I've got most of my patterns are small stuff at the minute. Like I've got and I don't really do clothing. Um, although I'm
It's
currently
not for everyone.
no, I agree. I mean, I've made some patterns for um, crochet yarn bowls. Most of my patterns are crochet. Actually, all my patterns are crochet at the minute. But I'm actually currently working on a jock pattern. To be honest,
I'm
I
scandalized.
know it's scandalous, right? Crocheted because there's knitted ones, but it's like okay, why not crochet them? And the ones I've seen are quite triangular in shape and don't necessarily give you much support. So I've kind of gone with a much more sort of shaped model. So
Well, I guess different guys need different amounts of support.
exactly. And so yeah, I'm just working through a pattern for that really. I had some rough notes that I wrote to make that.
Um,
And then I'm actually putting a chart together and stuff because I was kind of like, I should practice what I preach a little bit because I've been saying to people recently, oh, there's not enough patterns of this and that or whatever. And I'm just like, actually, if I make up a design for something, I should just put it out there because even if only one other person likes it, it's still found a place somewhere. You know what I mean?
whenever I run across an expense of some sort, I'm always saying, "Daddy needs pattern sales,"
Hmm.
because um, well, it varies from month to month. I haven't published
Yeah.
as much new stuff in since the new year as I had intended to. So I think that the new stuff sells better than usually. I mean, some of the old stuff that I had completely forgotten about does
Yeah.
sell, largely because it's cheap,
Yeah.
cheaper than the new stuff. But
Isn't that sad though? Like, I've been thinking about this recently because I read an article about it. It was a set of tweets actually that somebody wrote on Twitter recently, about how we should talk more about the work that goes into patterns too, because they're so underpriced when you think about all the work that goes into them. I mean, I know that they're the sort of thing that, um, the idea is that you do the work and then you sell bulk, and so you sell them for, but I don't think people fully understand just how much work goes into putting a chart together, or writing description of what stitches to use, and actually designing and making, and then frogging it and making it again, and frogging it and frogging it. And did I say frogging it enough? Because there's a lot of that.
there is.
And and then people are always looking out for the free patterns, and it's kind of like there's no pattern out there that's actually really free, because it's cost somebody something to put that together, if you get what I mean.
I got a lot of grief when I announced that all of my hat patterns were going to
Mm,
be free on my blog
right.
because I was very much involved in the Hat Not Hate project. And so I
Okay.
wanted to encourage people to create hats to donate anywhere,
Yeah.
anywhere,
Yeah.
because I mean, there are so many people who are less fortunate than we are.
Absolutely.
Um, so I got grief about that, but then in the end, the people who gave me grief wound up respecting me for that decision because I stuck to it.
I think that's a good. I mean, it's a good decision to, when it's for charity or whatever. I totally get it, and
Hmm.
I just think that we need to talk about, as craftspeople and artisans, because that's what we are, designers and, yarn folk. It's not just a hobby, and it's not just, um, faffing about with a bit of time, or you know what I
It's a
mean. Like
calling.
yeah, absolutely, and it kind of it does take up real legitimate time, and we shouldn't.
Mhm.
It's not just a nice hobby. I just think we need to value it. That's the upshot of all of that conversation.
Exactly,
We just need to
exactly.
value it, and value the amount of effort that goes in, and the skill and the expertise and the time that it's taken to learn something to the stage where you can design in that thing. That's that's time that, you're not really pricing into your pattern, because if you did, um, and it's the same in the sort of marketplace sort of scene where, people are looking for crochet blankets or whatever. If we really charged the amount of time it took us, a blanket would be completely unaffordable.
Actually, in my merch store, I have a mug that says, "If you can get it cheaper at the mall, then go to the mall.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
don't bother me anymore."
Yeah, I
Because,
agree.
yeah,
If that suits you, go and do that, because you don't want
and
the hand, you know.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly, and that's one reason I don't sell my output
yeah,
because I'm not gonna have that discussion.
yeah. No, I mean, I'm the same, and I won't. I also don't really sell when people come and ask me for a discount. It's not going to happen.
No,
I mean,
I
I,
mean
you know, because I've got to make a living at this, and
that's what. Honestly, I had to stop thinking about it that way as well because it
yeah,
made me a little bit too cynical and it came across.
yeah,
And
I
I
get
don't
that.
it didn't please me, it didn't please anyone else.
Yeah,
So, I mean, as long as I have, I have a tiny, tiny, bit of savings that I'm living on.
Yeah.
And I have a place to live because it's my sister's house. It used to belong to our mother when she
Right.
was alive. Uh, but, you know, if I didn't have that, you know, I'd be working at the supermarket bagging
Yeah.
groceries
Yeah.
and not have the time or energy to do
To
anything
do any of that. I
that
know.
gives
Yeah.
me joy.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing, isn't it? With especially the last year or whatever that we've had, last 2 years.
Uh-huh.
Um, it's been really important to find things that bring you joy in a really small way, because those big things that we used to do weren't available to us. And so connecting with people over Zoom or whatever, and
Mhm.
or just sitting in the sun for half an hour and knitting because that's all your heads can
Oh,
cope with.
you
I think
remind
that's,
me that I missed a Zoom call yesterday.
I'm sorry.
No, well, actually, I wasn't feeling very well yesterday, and I slept
I'm sorry
most
to
of the
that
day
too.
away. But
Yeah,
so
but
I
it's
um,
kind of important, and those things, just that little bit of kind of, it sounds really worthy, but that little bit of mindfulness is actually really
exactly,
important.
exactly. I talk a lot to a good friend who encourages me to find my voice. What is it that I have to say that other people might not say or might not say in the same way? And I like thinking about it that way. Um, and it is a process that evolves over time. It's a discovery that
Yeah,
evolves over time.
yeah,
So I don't have to have an answer today,
yeah,
but I'm working toward finding that voice.
yeah. Oh, and fair play to you, because I think, because the beauty about that is that there's always a space for it. There's space for all of us here, and these sorts of platforms will find, you put your content out, and you find your
Hmm.
voice, and especially, and you find your audience as well. And if you the best thing to do is not to think about, not to do any comparison. I do no comparison whatsoever. I kind of have a full on, it's community over competition. It's,
I'm very familiar with compare and despair.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
and it's the thief of joy. It takes all of the fun out of social media.
I
Even
like that phrase. Yeah, I
even that
don't.
thing where you have to like, I've thrown away all those kind of insights, if you like, where you look up the data and you find out which post did great and who connected, and I don't care. I've literally got to the point where it's social media. I'm there to be social, and if I happen to set, like, I'm not using it purely as selling. Um, I do have salesy posts on my Instagram because that's my
Hmm.
main marketing outlet, but it's not my only marketing outlet. Um, and most of the time on social media, it's because I want to connect with people, and it's because I want to be a bit irreverent and a bit silly and a bit of, dance about like a loon and whatever.
Irreverent and silly. Oh
Yeah,
my
go
goodness.
figure. So, and because
I
it's meant
I
to be fun, it's meant to be
It
enjoyable.
is.
It's
It
meant to
is.
be fun.
And different people come to social media with different missions too.
Agreed. Yeah.
Um, I have looked at my analytics, and it is very fortunate that the things that I enjoy doing the most, which are these conversations
Yeah.
and the live streams that I do,
Yeah.
are the ones that get the best response too, and the most viewer hours.
Yeah.
So, but I don't obsess about the analytics
No.
because
But I
I,
think a lot of that is about the authenticity of it. So I found that when I stopped caring, there was a point where I did look, because I'm trying to grow my business, and it's like, oh, I'm not,
Mhm.
it was the point where I stopped looking and stopped caring, that I became properly authentic around what I post, if that makes sense. Like, I'm just posting whatever I fancy that day. And I've had, like, I'll set reels up in the background and they sit in drafts for a bit, and then I'll just delete them because it's like, no, I don't want to post that. And then I'll post something completely ridiculous, like the one I did yesterday, where I found a song that I quite liked, and it just popped in my head, oh, that reminds me of this bit of doing my thing. So I thought, right, I'm just going to do that. And that's the one that people connected with yesterday. And it was, I had loads of comments, and so for me, it's about the authenticity of it. As long as you're authentic and, you're not hurting anyone, and you're actually standing up for the little people and the people who don't have a voice. I don't mean little people in a bad way, but, people who have less voice than me. I try and use my platform for light and good.
And for fun.
And for a bit of fun, yeah.
Exactly. And
boy, we need it at the moment.
You don't need to tell me that. Yeah.
So, and it doesn't matter where we live in the world, we all need it. And but the connections are genuine and nice, and so I think that's really important. That's and you'll find your space and your audience and your voice as all part of that package when the authenticity is there, I think.
Exactly. And I think in large part what I was saying, the things that I enjoy most, that's becoming my space, because I honestly, I really love doing these conversations, and I meet the most wonderful people, including you.
Thank you.
And and it just comes out really well. Also, that probably sounded like an evil laugh. But people tease me because I always get really cute guys, and they say that I flirt with them. I don't know why.
Do you?
Don't get me started.
Oh, okay, I'll stop. Okay. The husband's in the other room, so yeah, we've got to be careful.
I remember what it's like to have a husband. Vaguely. But so we're both finding the things that, it sounds like we're both saying that the things we enjoy doing the most are the things that get the best response.
Agreed. I think, and I think that it's, like I said, it's about finding your own, the thing that's authentic for you, that that makes you tick. And if that's your passion, then all the better. But then it kind of makes sense that would be your passion, because that's the thing that you're most, your face lights up when you talk about it, and you get enthused about it, and you're happy to put the time in because it's the thing that you enjoy doing the most. And hopefully you can possibly earn a little bit of money off the back of it, and at least
I wouldn't say no to that. Yeah.
So as long as you can support the habit, and it becomes that's a good thing, and that. So to me, it makes sense that that's the thing that does best, because that's the thing that you personally do best.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And so outside of yarn and social media, what makes you tick?
I was a teacher. I was a primary teacher, so
not a bit surprised.
So I did nearly 30 years of teaching. I quit just before, as the pandemic hit, I kind of got forced out of my job, essentially, but whatever, we won't talk about that. So I like languages, and I'd spent 3 years teaching in the Middle East. That was my most recent gig before I came back to London. So that I was out in the Middle East from 2016 through 2019. Came back just in time. For
you. Yeah.
But I'm glad I did, because I had friends who were stuck out in Abu Dhabi for nearly a year and couldn't leave.
The old joke. What's the difference between I can't think of the joke now, so forget it.
You can text
Um,
me later.
okay, but oh, what's the difference between Dubai and Abu Dhabi?
I don't know.
People in Dubai don't like the Flintstones, but people in Abu Dhabi do.
Yeah, yeah, okay, excellent. So I lived in the desert part of Abu Dhabi,
Hmm.
out by the border of Oman. So and I taught about 40 minutes into the desert from there, um, which was a little tiny town that's about an hour from Dubai, from the border of Dubai. Um, so it was proper desert school, and I love that kind of travel. And well, it wasn't so much travel because I was living there, but properly getting into um, the kind of mindset of living somewhere. I really like that.
Hmm.
I love languages and art. So I've always kind of, well, for a long time painted and drawn, but then didn't do it for a really long time either because work just takes over and you're just forever working and there's no time for it. So it was kind of a natural thing to get into yarn dyeing in a way because it's like color is it for me.
I
So
have to tell you, I just discovered a an art channel that is new to me, and I might have to email you the name of
okay.
it. But this guy is doing 60 days of great art, where he does like reproductions of those artworks in 1 minute in watercolor.
Oh wow.
Today it was Michelangelo's David,
Oh my gosh.
complete with Willie. Um,
Oh my gosh.
and
He's one of my crochet jocks.
yeah, but he also uh, while he's doing this, he does a voiceover with a whole bunch of background information that is just fascinating.
What, like history
And
and stuff?
yeah,
That's
particularly about the artists themselves. And he's
brilliant.
done a very wide range of artists.
That's
So on YouTube, if you search for something like 60 Days of Great Artists or something
okay.
like that,
I'll have a look.
you'll find him and
Yeah,
and tell him I sent you.
I shall. I shall.
He does a live stream every day, I think. I just discovered that.
See,
Um,
I've stayed away from live streams and podcasts. Well, that's not entirely true. I do listen to lots of podcasts, but I try and stay away from them a bit because I just find that's all I do because I just find people so fascinating, and I think that's part of the thing about languages and travel and stuff, which kind
mhm.
of makes me tick, is people. So I really like sitting in a cafe watching people and just observing because I just find it fascinating. We're the weirdest creatures on Earth, as well as being the most hideous, and most beautiful. But you know what I mean? Like we are just the most bonkers creatures. It's super interesting to just sit and watch sometimes. So
I can't argue with that.
yeah. So and I know
Oh,
lots
I think I
of
found just the perfect position for my head because you can see my logo behind
I
me.
can see the logo. Every so often, if you just stay right like that, then you can get the logo as well as the.
I mean, this
Otherwise,
was
it disappears.
this was
That's
also a
a
big
good
problem
ball
when I was
shot.
singing. I was always moving around when it's
Yeah,
always better to be completely still.
yeah.
I mean, and talking about passions, I have often spoken. Oops, there we go.
There you
I've
go.
often spoken. There we go. About my background in music and my passion for music, and
Yeah.
I have a reaction video, and I would like to do more that I just haven't uploaded and scheduled yet.
Mm.
Yesterday for St. Patrick's Day, I found a very, 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 very old recording of me singing Danny Boy.
Oh
And I
wow.
created a video with a lot of, basic, I hope it's public domain pictures of tourist pictures of Ireland.
Yeah.
And I got good response about that too.
Oh, that's good.
So, and I've been so anyway, yeah. If I mean, there are people who get very cynical about the old maxim, follow your dream and you will be successful, or follow your passion,
Yeah,
blah blah woof woof, whatever the most popular version is today.
yeah. No,
But
but it's true, and I think it comes back to what we were saying earlier. But that those things that really make you tick are the things um,
hmm
that I think connect with other people really well. And weirdly, because we've been through what we've been through in the last couple of years, people are a bit more connected like that, I think, generally. I mean, there's a point
I
now
think
where,
they're seeking connection more than they ever have,
yeah,
because they didn't realize how much they needed it.
yeah, yeah, until when it was taken away from us, then that's when you really notice that, oh, and I think there's a point now where, whilst we're coming back into, real life, if you like, I hate saying the new normal because it's not, and I hate saying back to normal because there's no such thing. It's, but let's not get political.
It's
It's
whatever it's going to be.
exactly. And so there's a point where people are going back into that, what they felt like they had before, but I think they're
hmm
taking with them um, elements of, some of the things that we found out, or that people seem to be really talking about, that worked for them during those 2 not so nice years that we had, with the connection with family that they had, or the connection with, finding time to actually read or whatever. And I think,
and without delving too much into it, it's not
yeah,
over.
no, quite. And that's
And
what I'm saying about, it's, I
and
think,
I think that when it gets political is when it gets nasty, and
agreed.
nobody needs that except the businessmen.
Yeah, I agreed. And I think that's the thing, that I think people are moving into what is going to be the future, but I think they're taking some of those elements of the things that they've discovered
hmm
about, and people who've really enjoyed keeping plants, or whatever it is, whatever the passion became, whatever it was. Um, People are hanging on to bits of those, and I think that's important too, because I think that's where the little bit of mindfulness that they have around that thing, whatever that thing is, um, actually makes you a better person in the real world, if you like, I think.
It's true, but there's another side to that, where people who have the opportunity to enter back into society more are abandoning some of the coping mechanisms. So I watch a lot of pet
Yeah.
rescue channels,
Hmm.
and so we're seeing a lot of uh, pandemic pets who are now being like
Yeah, I think
surrendered to
that's really
rescue
sad.
organizations
Yeah.
or something worse.
Yeah, that's very sad. And I mean, I just, I hope that we can, I mean, this is what I mean about watching people. We are the most revolting, hideous things on the planet, as well as being the most beautiful and the most bonkers. Because some of those traits are not particularly pleasant. And I it sounds really worthy, but I kind of wish that we'd hang on to some of those things. I don't get me wrong. I have no desire to stay locked down forever. I don't think anybody does, but
I
um,
loved it actually,
but
because
well,
that's the lifestyle I would have chose.
well, I mean, we were fortunate here, because I mean, I know I'm fortunate. When I was living in the Middle East, I wasn't there with my other half, so I was there on my own, and we just did commuting backwards and forwards, holidays, and that sort of thing.
hmm
So we had 3 years essentially not together, and then we had a couple of years where we were together. And it's kind of nice to be going back into something that's a bit more hybrid, and we have a bit of time to ourselves and stuff again, which is,
So what
yeah.
were we talking
I
about?
was just saying that, like, we'd spent time to apart, and then obviously had time together. And it's kind of nice to have that hybrid model where you can do and follow your own passions and have time, doing your own stuff, because we're individuals at the end of the day, but still being able to hang on to some of those things that we enjoyed doing together, and cooking meals or whatever it is. And I
Mhm.
just think some of those things are really nice. And it's a shame that people are abandoning animals and stuff. They were great coping mechanisms, but they're not just coping
Trying to
mechanisms.
move my head around. I'm sorry.
I know, I can't either, because it's not a coping mechanism. It's an animal, and it's not just
Exactly.
business. And
Yeah, yeah. And
um,
and and so one thing I've been doing is
mm,
encouraging people to um, knit or crochet dog sweaters and blankets and donate to pet rescue organizations.
no, it's not.
Um, so I would not object if you would spread the same message on your
Yeah,
side of the pond.
I can definitely do that. No worries.
Because oh my God, I am such a big fan of Paul O'Grady and Battersea.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, Paul O'Grady by himself is amazing,
yeah,
but I'm thinking about the show and it makes me
yeah,
misty.
yeah. He's great. And there's another show that we have out. You might not get it over there. It's called The Dog House, and it's
I'll have to look for it.
yeah.
I have
I'm not
we
sure if
have
it's
a
online or whatever, but there's it's a dog rescue center called Wood Green, which is up north of London anyway, but
mhm,
somewhere up north. I'm not sure exactly where, Midlands, I think. And
mhm.
um, they bring people into the centre and match them up with poochers, and it's that's a favourite watch of ours. I love it, and I'm desperate to have a dog, but we're in a 2-bedroom flat on the 7th floor. It's probably not ideal. So
You
one
can make it
day,
work if it's allowed. You can make
one
it
day.
work. Yeah.
No, we've decided
But
not to. It wouldn't be fair for now, but one day we will.
hope
Yeah,
so.
but yeah,
I love dogs. Everybody who knows me knows I love dogs. And if I ever, sometimes when I do a live stream, especially if it's like late at night and I'm in my cups, which is pretty much every day, um, um, and I get emotional, they will all say, "Puppies, puppies, let's talk about puppies."
yeah. Because no, I get emotional when I watch the puppies. That's the really
Well, that is,
funny.
oh, and
Yeah.
we adopted a senior dog last year. And a week or two ago, we had to make a very, very difficult
Oh,
decision.
so sorry to hear that.
He was very, he was in a lot of pain and rather sick. So
Yeah,
it
it's
had
hard
to
to
be
do
done.
the right thing. Yeah. No, I did. I fostered a cat, a kitten, out in the Middle East actually, for a time, um, because she just wasn't happy in the flat that she had been rescued,
Mm-hmm.
and she wasn't happy in the flat that she was rescued to. Um, so she came to live with me, and I had to have her rehomed eventually, which I organised. And I mean, she was so adorable. And I do kind of wish that I'd brought her back because she was beautiful. And because she was
I
tiny.
can
So
imagine
yeah.
there would be like all kinds of red tape to bring an annual animal back from anywhere over the
Yeah, I
years.
don't think it's as difficult as you think. There's a lot of cost involved.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can pay, it's just there's jabs and stuff. But um, in the end, I had her rehomed out there. But she was so adorable because she was only little when I got her. So I was the only person she really knew. Like, oh, she was so sweet. So yeah, um, Yeah, I can't think about that.
No, yeah, I know exactly. Now we do have a kitten that
So I've never had dogs, but I would like a dog.
yeah,
Would
the
like
kitten
one day.
the kitten misses the dog.
Yeah. Oh,
She's become more vocal, but also more courageous and friendlier. She was very standoffish, especially
that's
towards
cats,
me.
though. Cats are so aloof. Cats have attitude.
That's why I like dogs. They accept everybody.
Agreed.
I think it was Mark Twain who said the difference between a man and a dog is that a dog will see that you're upset and he won't ask you why.
Yeah. Yeah. And a cat will just see you're upset and then go and demand to be fed. Cats don't care. Cats literally don't care.
There was a meme or a cartoon or something comparing dogs and cats where a dog would say they they feed me, they take care of me, they pick up my poop, they must be God. And the cat says, they feed me, they take care of me, they pick up my poop, I must be God.
Yeah, exactly. Cats have staff. They are the ultimate in having staff. They live way above their station and they have staff.
It's true. It's
So
true.
Oh,
My goodness
true.
gracious.
Yeah.
Now, I hate to do this because I'm having such a good time, but I do have to plan for something at the top of the hour.
No problem.
So,
I've
what
just
would
realised
you?
that's the time. It's
I know.
Let's do this again, David.
I would love it. Honestly, there are so many of the guys I have chatted with. I think it would be fabulous to do an ongoing series of live chats, if possible. I think that would be tremendous fun. So that would be another thing to talk about offline.
Okay. Well,
But
really
what would you like to leave our audience with? Like
Ooh.
ways to find you,
Okay.
and your specialties, that sort of thing.
I am Kitey Andrew. I'm at the Yarn Whisperer on Instagram. Don't forget the underscore. You can find me on Facebook at I Want Yarn.
I'll have to look for that.
Yeah, so at I Want Yarn. I'm at yarnwhisperer.co.uk for my website. But if you find me on Instagram, you can find all my links in my bio. I hand dye yarn. I do custom orders. And yeah, I love crocheting, knitting. So fancy a chat and a crochet over a coffee, we can arrange that if you're in London. So
That sounds lovely. Okay, I'm going to end the recording right now, but stick around.
yeah, we'll do.